Hi and welcome to 5.7 production planning. This is the second part of it. The first part's mainly the SL stuff and this is mainly the HL stuff. It's good if you have a go back and look at the 5.6 innovation because it'll help you better understand the whole stock level stuff and the make and buy and why it's important to keep control of the stuff you have within your business. On here I've got the study notes for you about capacity and about the space being used and outsourcing and offshoring, and also the use of make or buy decisions. And I've also brought in a cost-benefit analysis as well, which could be interpreted from the learning outcomes. Feel free to read through these and pause it when you like. I've got more detailed study notes in the description bar below for you. We'll jump straight to it, Okay. Explaining outsourcing and subcontracting, so it can be a 4-mark question here. Do you reckon you could define outsourcing or subcontracting, find the case reference and give 2 impacts on the business about why they should do it to get your full 4 marks? The next one, discuss arguments for and against outsourcing and subcontracting. So with these ones on here, do you reckon you give 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of outsourcing and subcontracting, and about should the business do it itself or should they send it overseas or subcontract it or offshore it or outsource it, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, as compared to doing it internal in the business. So it'll be a full 8-mark question. Defining outsourcing or subcontracting, case reference, 2 adds, 2 disadds, and overall recommending yes they should or no they shouldn't. And then lastly, doing some appropriate calculations to support a make or buy decision. So I've brought in the cost benefit as well on this one as an SL thing. They've got the make or buy for the HL. So it's 2 ways of working out should you do it in-house or should you send it outsource. It's going to be 50% declarative today and 50% skills I'm going to show you how to do. And I've got some case stuff for you, and I've got another classifying thing for you to nut each of the bits out. Alright, up on here you've got outsourcing and you've got subcontracting, and this is part of the bigger production planning. So when you're planning to reduce stuff, what should you do? You can do it all in-house, or you could do it through external firms, and they do all the goods and services for you. And they might take over your marketing division, they might take over your finances for you, they might even take over the HR for you. So you produce everything, and the other 3 functions are outsourced. Or you might have, you keep in head office all of the HR and the finance, and you outsource the production to somebody else. The subcontracting part is usually to use external labour, so like subcontractors, plumbers or electricians or gas fitters and so forth. And they're that come in to do usually specialised jobs that aren't part of the normal production process. Subcontracting is very common for doing job production, particularly building houses and stuff. You could do offshoring, which means to move it completely offshore, so send it away from the States and send it straight across to China or India, and that's where all the goods and services are done. Usually the head office might stay in the best tax area, and then the cheapest production area is where all the operations will be. There's 2 ways of sort of working it out. Usually a make or buy, so do we make it in-house or do we get someone else and buy it from them? And you can do this through ratio analysis, but these are sort of 2 quick ways of doing it, through a make or buy decision, or doing a cost benefit where you add your qualitative and you give a value to those qualitative things, then add them all up and that'll give you a cost or benefit. I'll show you in greater detail when we get into the examples, but these are the different terms I'm going to be using for today. I got this hilarious video. A big fan of The Onion. I love the fact how they just, their satire is just awesome. Here's the tiny URL if you want to go have a look. And this is about outsourcing childcare to overseas. They've also got an outsourcing one to India, where the guys just want to get rid of all their jobs so they can sit around doing nothing all day. Both of these are pretty funny. Don't go for too long. Have a look at it just to get an overall tone about how everything is coming together for this part of production planning. Okay, it's going back to the same idea before about the stock control methods, but looking at your business, because no business operates at 100%, or 100% is meant to be the perfection theory, you're always looking for ways to get ahead of your competitors. And one way of doing it is to outsource or subcontract. You just want to find the most efficient way, which means the least amount of waste, and also the most profitable way for you to keep your profit margins so your competitors aren't getting ahead of you. One way of doing this is because of production inefficiency. So you might want to say, look, we can get better economies of scale or better specialization for making stuff if we actually do this by offshoring or subcontracting, getting an external firm to do it for us or getting external labor to come in and do the specialized jobs. It's because of production inefficiency. You just aren't doing it to the best you can. The other might be is the labor inefficiency. So this might be caused through certain parts of your workers. They aren't multi-skilled in all the areas. You don't have an electrician or a plumber on hand, and you get those guys to come in and they do the job for you. And then you charge the final customer the amount, and that covers all of your costs of paying for these subcontractors to come in. Why do you do it? Production inefficiency. It could be done cheaper somewhere else, or labor inefficiency. Your workers just don't have the skills to do it, so you can subcontract out the job to somebody else. Alright, now that we've got this idea of production inefficiency and labor inefficiency, what do we do? Well, basically it's still too expensive, and there are too many STEEPLE constraints, and there's too many stakeholder pressures. All of these things add up to the idea that it's just too much of a hassle. Even though we outsourced, we did it to a different state or to a different firm, we brought in subcontractors and it still hasn't worked out. They might just say, look, there's just too many constraints. There are too many laws, there are too many pressure groups, there are too many government restrictions, and the stakeholders, the shareholders just want greater and greater profit. So what do? Ultimately, you'll just offshore it. You'll send it maybe down to Mexico or India or China, where the labor is much cheaper, the regulations are a lot less, and you're able to do more things with your production you couldn't do, say, in the States, Australia, or Europe. With this one here, the big idea is about reducing costs, but more importantly, reducing the STEEPLE, the external pressures on your business, so you're able to produce more efficiently without such waste and MUDA occurring in your production processes. So how do we work this one out? Should we outsource or offshore or subcontract? What we've got here is a cost-benefit analysis as part of our procedural, so a skill I can show you how to use. If you put down the benefits of, say, outsourcing, offshoring, or subcontracting, you might say the decreased costs out of 10 will give a value of 8. Less laws and occupation health and safety requirements, you give a 5 out of 10. And be able to produce more output, we'll give that a 6. We add them all together and we get a total score of 19. So it's like plus 19 benefits to us. If we compare this to by the costs of doing it, you're going to get unhappy workers from Maslow. They lose some job security, the ones that are staying behind. They don't feel as though they're safe there. Might not be a big impact to your business, so a 4 out of 10. You might get angry suppliers who are used to supplying to you. There might be a big impact, but you might just say 5 out of 10. And getting less control of your business because it's been outsourced or subcontracted might be a 4. This all depends on your business, and you make these values up however you see fit. You might base this off some of your STEEPLE stuff. You might base it off stakeholder meetings and conflict. But if we add up all the scores, we get 13. So we've got like a negative 13 on the business. By doing this here, you've got like a plus 6 overall. So what are the main steps? Try to get 3 main benefits to it and 3 main costs. Calculate the impact of the scores, and then use the highest to determine what your decision should be. So overall, the benefits outweigh the costs, and it's recommended that we should do outsourcing, offshoring, or subcontracting to make sure the production process has greater efficiency and less MUDA. This is the cost-benefit analysis. The alternatives to do is with a make or buy decision, and it follows the idea that should we do it internally or should we do it externally. It's very similar to the CVA in that you add up the costs of doing it. So in this stage, rather than doing sort of a qualitative guess and you give a value, you actually use the exact costs. So the raw materials to me per unit is actually $5 per unit. The fixed costs will be 4, and the semi-variable will be 2. So overall, the cost to make each unit internally is 11. So I completely stuffed that up. Externally, it's going to be 11. Internally, the raw materials are 9 and 5 and 4, and overall it's 18. So what we've done here is we've used the numbers to show why we should actually do an outsourcing part. So if you look at the previous one, there was a benefit to do it externally because of qualitative reasons, and here there's a benefit to do it externally through a quantitative. The numbers are basically cheaper, which means more profit for you. So on these ones, you have to determine your variable, fixed and semi-variable, or just use the contract price that's being offered right now. So your outsourcing offshoring firm might not break these down for you, but they'll just say, we'll do it for $15 a unit compared to the $18 internally. Calculate each of the costs it does to do internally for you, and overall, if you're going for greater profit and potentially greater profit efficiency, pardon me, pick the cheaper one. So it's 11 versus 18. We're going to go with the outsourcing. So this is a numbers-based versus a word-based one we saw at the cost-benefit analysis. On here, I've got a bit of a sheet for you, and I want you to go through and have a look. I've intentionally made it a little bit tricky for you to sort of think, should we outsource it or should we do it internally? And just for you to state why for each of the reasons. Have a go through, try it on your tablet or your computer, and just write down some basic ideas just to organize your thoughts. Okay, to have a look, if we were going to do our work uniforms, we could do them externally and outsource them, or we could do them within the firm. And this one here, it's going to cost us $10 per unit versus 50. So our make or buy, we might say overall 50, it's going to cost too much, may as well get it outsourced. And also the 2 weeks versus the 4 weeks. We can get this done faster and cheaper, so we should outsource with a big tick. And why we should do this is cheaper and faster. With our marketing plans, should we outsource? It's going to cost $10,000 per unit versus $1,000, and it's also going to take longer. So outsourcing, we should definitely cross that one. Why should we do it? It's cheaper and faster to do it internally within the business. Last one, that's meant to be a tricky one for you, in that yes, it's more expensive to outsource and it's cheaper, but it's going to take a lot faster. It's going to be a lot faster by being outsourced. So more expensive but quicker, cheaper but longer. So on this one here, you might say it depends. You might tick and cross on this one. Why? It depends how badly the business needs it. So for the teaching and training, if it's critical to meet some sort of government law, then just go with the outsource to do it. But if it's to fix some of the internal training and on-the-job training, then maybe just do it internally and take some time going through it, because it's 10 times cheaper. This is designed just to get you thinking, to go through each part, and hopefully you're seeing why businesses suddenly start choosing to do in-house versus outsourcing. Alright, I've got an exam style question for you, and we've got Mirvac, which is a big integrated real estate group. It builds and manages and does a whole bunch of different property developments within Australia. Have a read through it, and I brought in some special interest groups to talk about some of the things that might bring with a cost-benefit analysis to bring some of your ideas together. Have a feel to pause it now and go through the stuff. Okay, so if we had to define outsourcing, and we're looking for the 2 marks here, outsourcing is the use of external firms to complete your goods or service requirements. And this could be seen in using electricians as an alternative for doing it. Offshoring is the idea that you're going to move your production facilities completely out of the country that you're in. This probably wouldn't be applicable to the case study, and you could mention this, saying that right now offshoring wouldn't be necessary with Mirvac because they're building towers within Brisbane, within Australia, so you couldn't offshore this, and you can use that logic to get the marks. Using cost-benefit analysis, should they use the outsourcing? So to begin with, a cost-benefit analysis is a tool used to analyse, strangely enough, the benefits and costs to determine which process a business should adopt to make the most efficient and profitable outcome. If we have a look here for the first part, the first part is that Mirvac, doing it internally is going to be more expensive than outsourcing. It's also going to take a lot longer, and also it's going to be quicker to outsource and to bring the subcontractors in. However, there's going to be no union protests internally, and the union protests might be quite strong. So even though the subcontractors might take it quicker, the union protests might cause some problems. So put this in the strengths for you. The strengths would be that using the subcontractor, it's cheaper and faster than doing it internally. However, the negatives, you're going to have union protests, and that might affect the other areas of the business and delay things in the longer term because the union is unhappy. Overall, if you're doing hard HRM policies, you might just say, just do it because it's cheaper in a quicker time, depending if it needs to get quickly sold. However, you might recommend to say overall in the long term it's recommended they do it in-house. It might cost $100 per unit more and take twice as long, but the long-term impact on the business is a lot less from special interest groups. Okay, to finish off for today, I'll have a go at the worksheet in the description bar below, 5.7, and to read the questions and have a go at them in the back of your textbook. In 5.7, I've got two different versions of the notes to get two different points of view. Do you think you can now explain outsourcing using an external firm? And subcontracting to use external labour? And do you reckon you can talk about two impacts on the business, most likely with the cost and time part that we talked about? Do you reckon you could discuss basically the for and against for outsourcing and subcontracting? This is the idea that you're going to talk about the quantitative, the number aspect, maybe the time, but then you also talk about the STEEPLE parts too, and the special interest groups that might be involved as some of the external stakeholders, and why they shouldn't do it. Down here, do you reckon you could do a cost-benefit analysis where you work out your three main, give them numbers, then the other three main and give them numbers, and work out whichever has the highest and go with the greater benefits over the greater costs? Or with the make and buy, where you add up your fixed, variable and semi-variable, internal versus doing it outsourcing, and use the cheaper version if that's going to be good for the business. If you could do those probably for 6 marks and construct it correctly, you're on the way to getting a good score. That's it for me today, and I'll see you again in 5.8 Critical Path Analysis.